Welcome back to the live show, late show from Los Angeles. This is your host, Young Brando. We're going to talk watches. We are going to continue our preview of the spring season, the spring auction season at Christie's. But I wanted to share with you first about this piece that I came across today. It is a chronograph made by the Gérard Janta brand. I shared previously with you, and that was on May 1st, which happened to be Gérard Janta's birthday, something that had a little bit more of a sporty flavor, something that was a little more industrial looking, even with that grid-like opening at the center of the dial, which makes it a semi-skeletonized watch, so to speak. I wanted to share with you another aspect of the Gérard Janta brand, which was very much about an extravagant and even daring elegance. What Madame Janta, Gérard Janta's widow, Evelyn Janta, called Grande Horlogerie. This is a one-of-a-kind chronograph entirely executed in platinum. As you can see, number one carved on the left flank of the case. The bracelet itself is in platinum, and so is the case. As you will quickly notice, the piece is marked quartz, and that refers to the mecha quartz movement inside, which is a Frédéric Piguet 1270, where we have a hybrid movement, basically, where the primary timekeeping functions are taken over by a quartz engine, yet a mechanical module operates the chronograph, which allows for the smooth sweep of the second hand, and also just very nice, engaging chronograph function overall. It's quite similar to the mecha quartz movements produced in that time by Jaeger-LeCoultre, and in that time and beyond by Seiko as well, which is usually what the companies use these days. When you look at the Dan Henry watches, or when you look at the Furlan Marri, you usually have a Seiko Mecha Quartz VK series movement. I think VK 67 perhaps is the name of the movement, if I'm not mistaken. But in either case, the principle remains the same, right? The central timekeeping is taken care of by a quartz-powered technology, and the chronograph functions are actually operated by a mechanical module. This piece has very distinctly a 24-hour indicator that is placed very shrewdly at 12 o'clock with this sun ray printed motif for the day part of the 24 hours, which I think is pretty cool and kind of reminiscent of that iconography of a moon phase watch. triple register chronograph with running seconds at 6, 30-minute totalizer at 9, and 12-hour counter at 3. Those parts are beautifully and radially polished, the subdials, and the rest of the dial is hand hammered in this finish that some brands call dimpled, others liken it to tremblage, whatever it is. I think along with the sophisticated and intricate details of the bracelet as well as the bezel really adds to the value of this watch, which once again is a pièce unique. So it is a one-of-a-kind piece that the brand produced once upon a time. And the brand is, of course, as you know, in the process of being revived by Louis Vuitton, by Jean Arnaud, especially um, at the La Fabrique du Temps with the master watchmakers Enrico Barbazzini and Michel Navas. I'm really looking forward to what they are going to come up with, but this is something that I wanted to share with you. After all, you know, I have said many times that salmon is the new black, and dimple dial is presented as if it's something groundbreaking by certain brands. But just so you know, Gerard Janta did it before everyone else. I'm going to come right back to the Christie's auction. Christie's Rare Watches auction is going to take place now in less than 10 days in Geneva. The season is taking off slowly but surely with the Geneva auctions. I have already covered a number of them. I have covered the live auction that In Eichen is going to hold in Geneva. I have also covered Antiquorum. I have also given you an overview of the Dubai online auction that Christie's is holding. But I wanted to come back to Christie's again for lot 148, which is a classic mill sub with actual military provenance. This is the 5513/17. 5517 is practically the mil spec version of that particular 4-digit reference. It is distinguished aesthetically from its counterpart by those broadsword hands with that spare head seconds hand, as well as a circled T right above the depth rating, which of course signifies the luminous material on the dial, which after all is tritium. Of course, another minor detail would be how the rotational timing bezel is fully graduated rather than for the first 15 minutes. Of course, these pieces come with fixed spring bars, and also the issue numbers as well. Can you hear me well, by the way? I'm not sure if I connected my mic right. As you know, I've been experiencing some problems, so feel free to type in stuff in the chat. As you see, 5513 is actually engraved at 12 o'clock. Of course, there's a serial number at 6 o'clock, and then on the lug, there is 5517 engraving, which testifies to the genuine mil-spec provenance of this watch, which is arriving from the mid-70s and which was made originally for the British Navy. Consigned by an important private collector, Christie's shares, this present milsub is a highly attractive representative of the rare and much sought after model. The untouched dial is graced by the highly attractive discoloration of the luminous material to numerals and hence displaying a beautiful and uniform ivory tone. The bezel is the correct version, featuring minute markings, a unique for the military Submariner series, as we mentioned, fully graduated for all 60 minutes rather than the first quarter of the hour. The outside of the case back of the present watch is engraved with the following markings: 0552 for the British Ministry of Defense, 9237697 for the NATO code, which is, of course, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The broad arrow characterizing all watches owned by the British Army, the issue number 680 and the issue year 77. By the broad arrow, they mean, of course, this particular sign right here. Unlike, for example, when people talk about broad arrow Speedmasters, which actually refers to the handset of those first few generations of the Speedmasters, which actually included an arrow. Lot number 148 is a genuine milsub with authentic provenance from mid-70s. The piece has an estimated value of 150,000 to $250,000 in Swiss francs. Oops. I want to share with you the auction page. So if you want me to enter any particular lots, feel free to send the number with a super chat. Hey, JB, nice to see you, man. And JJ, thank you. Thank you for leaving comments as well to my videos. I really, really appreciate it. What is that? Hello from glove. What is a glove? What am I missing there? What's the inside joke that flew right over my head? You know, I'm low IQ a little bit, so you have to clarify these things to me. You have to teach me. I'm gonna start from the end and work my way back and kind of go a little randomly. This is lot 157. It is a 14 carat Rolex Oyster Cosmograph Daytona, reference 6265. Since 18 karat gold pieces were subject to a different structure of tariffs when importing these sorts of watches to the US, 14 karat yellow gold pieces in this era were preserved for or reserved to the American market. So you can more or less guess when you see a Rolex from this time period in 14 karat yellow gold that you have a watch reserved for the American market. In this case, that yellow gold case is matched with a matte black dial with stunning baton markers and champagne chronograph registers, subtly recessed and radially guilloché. Beautiful details, just a lovely sharp case that you can inspect from various angles. In this listing, notice how the 14 karat stamp and the hallmarks are crisp. This is the inside of the case back, once again marked with the hallmarks of 14 karat gold, right? 585 instead of 750. Dot 585, of course, which corresponds to 14 karat gold. It's really beautiful here presented on a kind of distressed brown calfskin strap matched with an 18 karat yellow gold Rolex buckle with the coronet. These are, of course, relatively rare when it comes to 14 and 18 karat Rolex Daytonas. 14 karat pieces are, I think, slightly more rare than the 18 karat. And, you know, it's really, I think it's really a matter of preference at that point. You know, maybe you have a certain romanticism about Rolex watches designated for the American market. Maybe you actually like the tone of 14 karat gold better than 18. You know, I actually kind of love 9 karat gold. I feel also it's a little harder wearing. I don't have watches in that, but I have some cufflinks in 9 karat gold, and I really appreciate it. They're not as eye catching, but they're still quite hefty for, you know, for just cufflinks. They hold together well. They're very elegant, but that they're a little more durable, of course, than higher carat gold. Anyway, but it might be just about the luster, and certainly 14 karat gold shows itself differently to 18 karat. This is lot number 157. A Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 6265 in black and gold, presented on a leather strap and a matching 18 karat yellow gold Rolex buckle from late 70s, with an estimated value of 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. Ah, okay. Right. I understand. Is it a location of the state on hand? Okay, I understand. I thought, you know, my American geography, even though I have been a citizen of this country for a while now, is still kind of miserable. So I thought when you showed me the glove, uh, talk to the glove, um, I thought it was the shape of the state or something. But I guess Michigan kind of looks like a mitten as well. Yeah, to me, anyways. Oh my God. I love receiving these sorts of greetings. Nice to see you, Mike from New Zealand. Thank you so much, Mike David. How do I respond to that? Do I just say kia ora, or is there a proper response? At lot 159, we have a Paul Newman Panda, the reference 6263, with the white or cream background dial, black chronograph registers with the Art Deco numerals and the bakelite bezel insert, which is a great complement to this. The piece actually comes on an oyster bracelet. As you can see, presentation box and the outer box, outer packaging, the international service warranty, as well as a service receipt from 2003, which includes a complete revision, rehaul of the movement, regulation of the waterproofness as well. I think those are two separate things. I mean, réglage, I think, just refers to the regulation of the movement, and étanchéité, of course, is waterproofness, polish of the case and bracelets. And I think they also replaced the bezel as well as one of the pushers, which is great. It's nice to have the service receipt, not only to know how much, when the service was undertaken, but also what was actually done to the watch. In this case, they have changed the bezel, one of the pushers, probably the lower one, probably the reset pusher, but I would have to see the watch more closely and look over it more carefully. But that is really good to know. It comes with the original bezel as well, as it seems. Additional service bezel, it says. Additional case back. Okay. Interesting. Again, as we read together in that service receipt, the case and the bracelet is polished, but it doesn't seem like that was excessive. There's still a very healthy case, certainly not ground down to a toothpick, even though it's not necessarily factory finish at all. But a very nice package indeed overall. This is lot 159, which is a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 6263, a Paul Newman Panda with an estimated value of $500,000 to $250,000 to $500,000 in Swiss francs from early 70s. At 158, we have reference 6240 with the Paul Newman exotic dial in a configuration that we might call reverse panda, since we have a matte black background with subtly recessed, radially guilloché, Art Deco numeraled chronograph registers, red writing for the Daytona over the 12-hour counter. The seconds track for the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand is also laid out in red and indicates 1/5 of a second, screw-down pushers and bakelite bezel. A very handsome looking watch at lot 158. The piece is expected to realize a final hammer price between 140,000 to 240,000 in Swiss francs. Thank you, Mikey. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Kia ora. Okay. I wish you the best of health as well. And Mikey, thank you. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. You know, just putting the work in, day out. The channel is growing slowly but surely, most certainly organically. This is lot 156. It's the 5-digit Daytona 16528. So the 18 karat yellow gold version of the first generation of self-winding sports chronograph by Rolex. In 1988, Rolex finally decided to take the plunge and outfit their Cosmograph Daytona line with an automatic movement. And for that, they outsourced the Zenith El Primero Caliber 400 as the base. As its name implies, Zenith El Primero is one of the first, if not the first, integrated self-winding chronograph movements in the entire world. Rolex made a couple of modifications on it, including reducing the frequency from 5 hertz to 4, among other things. And this is the luxuriant version of it with a beautiful white dial that collectors liken to porcelain. This is from that early production in 18 karat yellow gold. It's also called floating cosmograph, since the 5 lines of writing is separated between the first 4 lines and cosmograph, which skips a line, right, as if it's floating somewhere in between those 4 lines and the Daytona writing that wraps itself around the 12-hour counter. Just to very quickly, as I always like to remind people, hopefully not ruining their experience if they have OCD like me. One of the reasons I love the Zenith Daytona generation, the 5-digit Daytonas, is their perfect symmetry. If you draw 2 straight lines through the case, you know, right through the crown, going through 9 and 3 o'clock, and right through the crown, going through 12, the coronet, and 6 o'clock, you'll see that everything is perfectly aligned and that the 2 chronograph registers, namely the running seconds subdial and the 30-minute totalizer, are perfectly aligned with the crown and sit, and the hand stack as well, so sit right in the middle of the case. That's something that I really cherish. Another way of instantly separating the 2 generations from each other, besides the minor and nerdier details, which I take pleasure in, but you might not, is the placement of the running seconds subdial in the generation 116520 that starts with the new millennium. The
continuously running seconds is shifted to the position at 6 o'clock, whereas in the older caliber 4030, it is at 9 o'clock, as you see in this 16528 porcelain dial, which is a floating cosmograph as well. The piece, as you see, comes not only on its matching bracelet, but also a blank guarantee paper, a service guarantee from 2021, and a travel pouch. At 156, this beautiful example of the 16528 with a white, quote unquote, porcelain dial, an early example, has an estimated value of 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. The beauty floats. Yeah, it is really a beautiful watch, and it stands right next to what I like even better, actually. With all due respect, I mean, I like in stainless steel in this generation, I like the white better. In gold, I most certainly like the black better. I think black and gold is just undefeated. It's a great match. Um, this particular piece is also a very beautiful example. Again, presented on its original bracelets. Those champagne outer rings of the chronograph register, beautifully echoing with the matching 18 karat yellow gold tachymeter bezel. And seemingly what we have in our hands here, with the warranty dated from 1992, is practically a full set with the leather card holder, sales tag, product literature, presentation box, and outer packaging. This is lot number 155, reference 16528, with the estimated value 30,000 to 60,000 in Swiss francs. They call this one an inverted 6 because instead of 12, 3, and 6, the 6 is actually radially placed on that axis. So it actually looks like a 9 in the hour counter. This is later modified, right? Since all these different pieces are radially placed, right? You know, the 3 doesn't stand like this, the 9 doesn't stand like this. So why should 6 stand like that? But anyway, so even though this is how it is supposed to be placed, this is called inverted 6, and it's something that Rolex modified later. That was lot number 155 for the 16528 black dial. Estimated value is 30 to 60,000 Swiss francs. We have at 154 the Jake Brooks Special 16528. This one is an early example with a 4-line dial. Rather than 5, right? Because it's usually superlative chronometer officially certified. In this particular example, the officially certified line is skipped. So cosmograph comes right after that. And as you see, this is also an inverted 6 dial. I think the black outer rings makes this a very elegant execution of the panda dial concept, a very balanced and beautiful face for the watch. The piece comes on its matching bracelet as well as an international service warranty card dated from last year. The invoice is included as well. In many ways, the what comes after 1988 has been quite definitive and consistent. Um, I'm looking forward to examining the new line 126 500 Daytona. But things have stayed pretty consistent. But that transformation was pretty radical for Rolex. And it's really what started bringing the Daytona into the mainstream a little more and laid the first stone, really, or laid the first brick of the foundation that ended up making the Daytona Rolex's flagship model rather than the Submariner or rather than the Datejust or the Day-Date. A bigger case, something that is a little more muscular, perhaps a little more masculine, certainly outfitted with a few luxurious details. Sapphire crystal replaces the plastic, the acrylic crystal, the plexiglass, and you get a bracelet that actually has polished center links a couple of years into the run in the stainless steel as well, which is something that Rolex was already offering for a few years in precious metal models. Hey, Bruce G, nice to see you, man. I'm gonna drop in the link again. I think I forget to pin the link to join the stream. Okay, I think no, I haven't. It's there. So if you want to join the stream, if you want to jump on the panel, please feel free to do so. I really enjoy it when I have an interlocutor, when I have someone to talk to. Trust me, with my mental state, I talk to myself practically the entire day. So it's good to have some company once every so often. Here is lot 153. This is the 5-digit generation. As you can see from a closer picture, here are the two major cosmetic details, which are really an effect of the change of the movement. And I think for that reason, this particular transition from one generation to another in the Daytona is a great lesson, an object lesson, as it were, for people to understand how everything about a mechanical watch starts from its movement. Everything you see in terms of the face of the watch, in terms of the dial layout, in terms of the case, in a thoughtful design at least, builds upon the core of the caliber, builds upon what is necessarily the beating heart of that mechanical timepiece. So when the movement changes from 4030 to 4130, obviously it is a different architecture And that different architecture reflects differently on the face of the watch. So here you see a slight bump upwards in terms of the um, situation, in terms of the placement of the 3 chronograph registers. And instead of 9 o'clock, the continuous seconds subdial shifts to 6. For this generation, I like the black better in stainless steel because I think those silver outer rings for chronograph registers resonate beautifully with the stainless steel tachymeter bezel, whereas the white one looks a little washed out to my eyes, but that's just me. So this is the 116520, Rolex's first generation of the Daytona with an in-house self-winding chronograph movement, the 4130, which was just refreshed with 4131 in the new generation, which is not to say that it hadn't been updated over the years, but the caliber number was preserved up until 2023. Lot number 153 has an estimated value of 15,000 to 25,000 Swiss francs. Oh, JB, thank you. Thank you. 999. You are making me want to change what's on my wrist to put on the JB special. It is the JB special, man. I'm so happy about that watch. After the crash, and even now, I took your advice to see the value on these. Thank you. I think they're still great value. Look, if you have a lot of money and if you want a gold Rolex watch, 16528 is a great bet. It's perhaps not necessarily the watch, the gold version is not necessarily the watch you want to get from an auction, but you can find some decent deals on it, and it's a great piece. It's really the definition of an heirloom piece. Same thing with the stainless steel, but you also get something that you can wear just about anywhere. Of course, with certain precautions, right? We all know the kind of stress luxury watch owners face in certain environments. But I think as long as you exercise common sense, caution, as long as you have situational awareness, as long as you stick to familiar environments, you should be fine. And that's a watch that you can wear. That's a watch that Junior can inherit for the future. And certainly, for me, when it comes to self-winding pieces, when it comes to an everyday Daytona, I think it's still undefeated. I really like the new generation and how it looks, but I know that watch is a bigger watch. I know it doesn't have these classical proportions. So it would be really hard to beat in the future for me as well. So on so many levels, I think the 5-digit wins. We have a white gold version with the matching. Oh no, this is just the dial. It's a prototype dial. Wow. So prototype Moonraker Zynga dial 116520. By the way, I had promised myself that I was going to grab a beer after my first super chat. So I'm going to do that. Who knows? The night is young, but I don't get a lot of super chats lately. So I should take this chance while I'm at it. It's hot. It's getting hot in Los Angeles. So I need to drink something cold. Cheers. This is much more similar to dials that we ended up seeing on white gold pieces, but this is actually a stainless steel early example from around 2000 with the new in-house movement, as you can see very quickly. The red accents actually on the dial top, it really takes care of that slightly washed out look on the 116520 with the white dial. I want to read a little bit about this with you. For collectors of the finest Rolex wristwatches, in particular the Cosmograph Daytona, details are everything. The watches that exhibit distinctive or unique variations from the regular serial production watches are some of the most sought after of all. Similarly, some Cosmograph Daytona references exist with prototype dials that are recognized as highly important links charting the early developments and progression of a reference through to its final production model. The present reference 116520, dating from 2000, the first year of manufacture, is fitted with one of the incredibly rare prototype dials made by Zenga that are transitional and form a link between the model's predecessor and the new reference. These prototype dials uniquely share characteristics of the dials of both references. Very few examples of this prototype, nicknamed the Moonraker by scholars and collectors, are known publicly. Furthermore, and adding possibly another unique aspect to the present watch, are the red chronograph and register hands that are visually stunning against the white surface of the dial. So here are the distinguishing characteristics of the Moonraker. The indices and graphics have remained the same as reference 16520, but the chapter rings for the registers are of the 116520 type. So when you see in the 6 digits, the indices had become stubby. The prototype dial preserves the slender, more elongated indices, which came back in the 126500, really paying homage to the first automatic Daytona. They also mentioned that you have the silver outer rings, which carried over to the 6-digit generation, whereas the 5-digit had the black matching with the white dial. The white surface of the dial has a matte grenet, slightly textured effect. The dial T, Swiss made T designation firmly dates this prototype dial from 2000, as the Rolex was making changeover from using tritium to luminova for the luminous indices, and hence from 2000 onwards the designation read only Swiss. Very cool indeed. T, of course, stood for tritium, as we mentioned. This prototype dial piece at lot number 152 has an estimated value of $80,000 to $160,000. Hey, Basil, man, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Nice. We get a prototype Yachtmaster as well, 16622. With black indices. White dial, without the Yachtmaster writing, actually. Honestly, it doesn't really look pretty to me, but it's cool, I guess. It's unique. As with anything that is rare, we'll probably find some claimant to it. This is 16622, a prototype site Yachtmaster in stainless steel, and of course with the platinum bezel inserts. Gloss white dial and black indices. Very interesting piece. Lot 151, this Yachtmaster with the white prototype dial from around 1999 is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the region of 20,000 to 40,000 in Swiss francs. Mm, absolutely. It's a beautifully finished piece of precious metal on the bezel insert on the Yachtmasters. I've always loved Yachtmasters. I mean, hard not to really. 149 is a very distinctly tropicalized version of an Explorer. This is reference 1016, not the first Explorer reference, right? Not the first reference of the Rolex Explorer that was presented as Explorer with Explorer written on the dial. That honor belongs to 6350. 1016, however, has perhaps due to its long standing production production period, it has become the icon of a vintage Explorer, especially. I think it has something to do with the fact that one of the most illustrious and perhaps influential names associated with vintage Rolex outside of the company, Ian Fleming, wore one. He wore one when he was typing away on his desk in Jamaica. He wore it when he put on his dinner jacket and sipped on his favorite martini. He wore it by the sea. He wore it by the pool. He wore it everywhere. So I think that has something to do with the fact that the 1016 has stood the test of time. This is an example from the mid 60s with a gilt dial that has really came into its own in this sort of moon phase kind of look. Lot 149 in the classic 36 millimeter diameter and the slightly domed smooth bezel. This piece has an estimated value of 12,000 to 18,000 Swiss francs. Hey, Polly. Thanks for reminding everyone to upvote. Please upvote. I really appreciate it. Um, it really does help. At 147, we have once again one of my favorite combinations. It's two of the most iconic Rolex professional models in one. You want an Explorer, you got it. You want a Submariner, you got it. This is 5513 with a 369 dial. That is rather spotted. That has seen better days. I mean, overall, the watch has, I think. There's some humidity ingress, clearly, some corrosion on the hands as well as the chapter ring. But I think the watch still looks pretty lovely. Maybe in need of a little bit of TLC. I sometimes don't understand why they would not take care of some of these minor things, right? I'm not talking about any sort of restoration, but clearly, there's a lot of grime on the watch that could have been cleaned. Maybe they know better than I do, but I cannot imagine that they would present a precious work of art in this kind of state, right? Without, uh, refitting it with a period appropriate frame, fixing the frame if necessary, if it is something that they can take care of quickly. I mean, it's really you dab, um, you dab a piece of cotton or something and in water and then clean up that grime. I mean, it's not anyway. I'm nitpicking. This is a model that is essentially quite rare, produced in very limited quantities. This particular match of the 369 dial, of the Explorer dial with the Submariner. It has been done before with the big crown subs. It has also been done in 5513. This is 1963, so it's also a gilt dial. Comes with the correct riveted oyster bracelets. This piece at lot 147 has an estimated value of 50,000 to 100,000 Swiss francs. Right. I don't know. I sometimes baby my watches so much that I wouldn't even put a soft toothbrush against them, but that doesn't mean I don't clean my watches. At 146, what you have is a Rolex Sea Dweller double red DRSD. This is, again, the iconic reference of Rolex's serious professional diver watch that they first introduced in 1967. This is a relatively early model from the late 60s. A dial that has positively matted out with the luminous material on the dial turning into this eggshell color, largely matching the patina on the handset. It's a really beautiful watch, but I am very much biased. Sea Dweller and the Submariner 2000 written in red for lot 146, which has an estimated value of 60,000 to 100,000 in Swiss francs. Another double red. This is a later example from 1973. Again, it's all about how your taste develops. This is compared to this piece at lot 146. It's perhaps less rare and a later example, but the patina on the hands and the dial in terms of the luminous material is pretty even. You get once again the double red. Sea Dweller Submariner 2000, standing for 2,000 feet of depth rating. And this particular example too comes with a beautifully preserved case with sharp, defined lugs. This piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere between 25,000 to 45,000 in Swiss francs. Please hit the like button when you can. Mike David says, I'm a sucker for that apple green Kermit. Which watch are we talking about? Are we talking about the Rolex Submariner Kermit? Are we talking about something else? Der Stiefel is here. Hey, man, how are you doing? Get your beer. We have a 5513 made for Comex. This is the 5513, not only stamped Comex, but also with the helium escape valve as well. Striking example of the rare reference 5513 rather than the 5514, which was actually a designated reference for COMEX, which stands for Compagnie Maritime d'Expertise, a professional, a commercial diver company. The present wristwatch impresses with its splendid overall condition. The very well preserved dial displays attractively discolored luminous material and is assembled with a stainless steel case of strong proportions. Furthermore, the present early reference 5513 features not only a helium escape valve, but it is correctly engraved Rolex Comex on the case back. The three last digits of the serial number are also repeated inside the case back. As of the late 1960s, Rolex supplied different Submariner models featuring the patented gas escape valve to the side to Comex in Marseille, a professional diving operation for the oil industry. Beautiful piece of diving history, commercial diving history, but also Rolex history at lot number 144. A Submariner Comex reference 5513 properly engraved on the case back, in addition to the helium escape valve. This piece has an estimated value of $25,000 to $40,000. At 143, we have a 168 000. This is actually a Submariner date made for Comex and signed Comex on the dial as well. Engraved on the case back, Rolex Comex, and also with, I think, the last 4 digits of the serial number. Or maybe that's just an issue number. Let's read up on it. The inside caseback of the present watch bears the reference 168 000 and R381574, the entire serial number. So you know that everything matches, because it's not the usual Rolex practice at all to have the entire serial number inside the caseback. This is Rolex Submariner date 168000, coming from the family of the original owner, with the issue number 6269 from 1988. The piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the range of 30,000 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. We have the Sea Dweller Bonanza continuing right here. Sea Dweller 4000. With the caseback sticker still intact, even though it has started disintegrating. This is a reference 16600, 16600, Rolex Sea Dweller from around 2004 at lot 142, with an estimated value of 8,000 to 12,000 in Swiss francs. At lot 141, we have a set for a Mark I black dial for 1680. This is the Submariner date without the red writing. The piece has an undated warranty card folder, the symbolic anchor, sales tag, product literature, presentation box, as well as outer packaging. From around 1973 at lot number 141. The piece is actually signed on the bracelets, engraved, I should say, with the initials of a previous owner. And it has an estimated value of 12,000 to 18,000 in Swiss francs. At 140, we have a late example of the Kermit from around 2010, which is right around the end of the roughly 7 years of a production period. As you know, this is a later example of the bezel insert. It's a sharp 4 rather than a flat 4, sometimes called also the fat 4. The piece comes with that decorative anchor, the chronometer seal, warranty card. Very sharp and well-preserved case, well-preserved watch overall. This is number 140 with an estimated value of 10,000 to 15,000. We were talking in some of the earlier live streams about this model in particular, the so-called Kermit, the 50th anniversary Submariner that was introduced with the green bezel in 2003, 16610LV. Honestly, I would try to go with a so-called flat 4 bezel. I would go with the actual early example, a genuine article for the 50th anniversary piece, and that should also have not only the flat not only the flat 4, but also should have a serial between, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my mind, between Y to F. So, you know, the Kermit is always a great watch, but if you're really going to get one, you might as well get as close to 2003, get as close to an early example with the so-called flat 4 bezel than a later example, which is still a good looking piece, but it's a little further away from the anniversary. This piece, again, it has an estimated value of 10 to 15,000 in Swiss francs. You see, Flat 4 responded directly. Flat 4 says, have you heard that the sub-date Comexes were office executive models and the no-date Sea Dwellers were worn in the field? It was mentioned by John Mayer, but I don't know the accuracy. I can't testify to the accuracy either, Flat 4. That sounds exactly like a story that someone concocted. This whole notion that executives have to sign documents, so they have to know the dates, and you don't need the date underwater kind of distinction. I'm not quite sure. It's 9:48, my friend. And Mike David says for the 16610 LV, the 50th anniversary Submariner, the Kermit, it is the perfect juxtaposition of neo-vintage and new. Speaking of which, here's another example of that. The GMT Master 2, the Coke, right around year 2000, which is a sweet spot for that compromise that Mike David is talking about between neo-vintage and contemporary, because you get the solid end links, you get the Holz case, you get Luminova, but you also get some of the aesthetic, some of the touches of neo vintage pieces. If you go a few years earlier, you can get something that has tritium on the dial, so also some kind of patina already developing. If you go a little further, you can get a no holes case if that's your preference, aesthetically or otherwise. But 2000 is in so many ways the sweet spot because you get the heft and wearability of the solid end link bracelet, which is added value. You might even say objectively, even though I'm an old head, I prefer watches older, but that's just my preference. This is 139 for a GMT Master 2 Coke, reference number 16710. This particular piece comes basically as a full set with its original warranty from 2001, international service guarantee from 2009. It has an estimated value of 8,000 to 12,000 in Swiss francs. Thanks for being here, by the way. Please hit the like button. For a channel of this size, it really makes a huge difference, believe me, and I really do appreciate it. We are almost at 1,500. It's getting there. Flat 4. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you so much. I can't see what the sticker says, though. Oh, it's just thumbs up. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. We have a 3974 at lot 138, which is, when it comes down to it, it's basically the chiming version of the 3970, the 36 millimeter classic Patek perpetual calendar, here in white gold with a solid case back. These close-up shots, of course, are trying to show you, the potential buyer, how well preserved and crisp the hallmarks still are. That's, by the way, some of those hallmarks were referring back. JP is Jean-Pierre, of course, and matching with that, JHP is Jean-Pierre Hagman or Hagman, who is the famous case maker who made a lot of legendary cases for Patek and who was recruited by Recep Recepi to make the cases for Chronomètre Contemporain. So there you go. This particular case was made by Jean-Pierre Hagman as well. This is a lot 138, 3974, which is a Patek perpetual calendar minute repeater. It has all the functions of the 3970 and combines it with a minute repeater, which you can engage with the slider on the left band of the case. When it was launched in 1989, it 3974 was the world's most complicated wristwatch. Pardon me. It was only made in 160 examples. Not only one of the rarest, but one of the most technically sophisticated Patek Grande Complication of the period. I think probably they mean to say the most complicated wristwatch to be produced in a series, probably. Because I believe there were a few other things that had that sort of claim. Anyway. The present self-winding minute-repeating perpetual calendar moon phase wristwatch is not only one of the very rare white gold versions, but also has a case made by, there you go, voila, legendary case maker Jean-Pierre Hagman, a great rarity in and of itself. Of all the examples of this reference manufactured, the majority were crafted in yellow gold, platinum, and pink gold, less than 12 pieces in white gold. Only the third example to appear at international auction in the last 23 years since the auction, since production ceased. The stunningly attractive white gold reference 3974 is a very special and distinguished watch of the reference, perfect for any collector seeking great exclusivity among complicated Patek Philippe wristwatches, wonderfully preserved. It is sold with the original certificate with date code for October 1991 and its full set of accessories. Amazing. This is lot 138 for a very rare example of a Grande Complication Patek 3974G perpetual calendar minute repeater with a moon phase indicator. From 1991, this piece has an estimated value of 1,200,000 to 1,800,000 in Swiss francs. Thank you, GD. I appreciate you, man. You make it even better with your presence. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and especially to Flat 4 and JB, everyone who is leaving these generous and kind comments. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions. If you would like to contribute, that's very much welcome. This is lot 137. Once again, we have the combination of minute repeater and perpetual calendar, but you also have two more goodies in terms of complication and one aesthetic detail that makes this watch perhaps even more special. It's not as rare as the 3974G that we have seen at 137, but it is, to my eyes, even more impressive. First of all, look at this beautiful case for the 5016. The muscular stepped lugs that give a kind of sporty appearance to what is otherwise very elegant and formal piece of work. As with any other Patek tourbillon, it's very discreet on its face. All you can see is the inscription, tourbillon, and the movement number inscribed. And this is done here right within the small second subdial, which contains the moon phase indicator as well. You have a pearled minute track with matching beads. You have applied Breguet numerals, which are matched with Breguet style hands, palm or apple shaped hands, as they're sometimes also called, in the form of a downward facing crescent at the center of the dial. You have the date indicator, which is shown with a heat blued hand, which snaps back at the beginning of the month. And of course, at 9 and 3 o'clock, respectively, you have the day of the week as well as the month. And as you can see from, again, this stylized slider, this piece is also a chiming watch. So, in fact, not only do you get the combination of the minute repeater and perpetual calendar, just as you have gotten from the 3974G in lots 138, 137, which is a 5016P, gives you also a retrograde date indicator. It gives you also a tourbillon, and it gives you as well the applied Breguet numerals, which is something always uh, lovely to see and always well desired on a Patek Philippe watch. Right around 12 o'clock, you also have the leap year indicator, not to forget that. And of course, you can actually contemplate the tourbillon on through the case back, which is an exhibition case back. The caliber carries the hallmark of Geneva, and the bridge plates are actually decorated with circular Côte de Genève finishing as well. You see the highly polished and beveled hammers and the gong. Until the arrival of the Sky Moon Tourbillon, reference 5002 in 2001. This reference, 5016, itself launched in 1994, remained the most complicated wristwatch for Patek. Reference 5016 is regarded as one of the old school, or for purists, real Patek Philippe production, and it is one of the very last examples of this iconic group, which includes masterpieces such as the references 2497, which is a perpetual calendar, and the successor to 1526, and 2499, which is perpetual calendar chronograph and is the successor to 1518. And I actually learned today and saw pictures of Sugar Ray Robinson wearing a 1518, which I'm going to share tomorrow, which is just incredible. It made me so happy. And it made me so happy to find out that it was a pink gold 1518 as well. And the man certainly loved his pink. As you know, he had a flamingo pink Cadillac. His establishments in Harlem had pink signs. He had entire suits and outfits in pink as well. So it's pretty cool. Indeed, the case design of the reference 5016 is a direct descendant of the latter, meaning 2499, which, by the way, is in so many ways even more popular among collectors than the 1518 as a perpetual calendar chronograph for Patek, characterized by the unmistakable sculpted lugs, and that's partly the appeal of 2499 as well. So this particular piece at lot 137, which arrives as a full set matching Patek Philippe Platinum Déployant clasp, the certificate of origin from 2009, the chronometer certification, purchase invoice, instruction manual, product literature, leather portfolio, key and presentation box, one of only 90, pardon me. This piece has an estimated value of 450,000 to 600,000 in Swiss francs. Basil, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for the hearts. Oh, wow. Okay. JJ has a question. JJ, love you, man. I was talking to Robert this morning, and I look forward to watching your interview tomorrow on the channel. What do you make of what channels giving the Christopher Ward 12 a lot of praise at the price point? Are they getting paid off, or is it this year's much improved PRX? Ooh, JJ, you know I love you. I think your question already has an answer in it. What do you think? Look, Christopher Ward has been doing a lot of great things. I loved the collaboration they did with Fears for the Jumping Hour watch, which was also something realized with the support of the Alliance of British Watch and Clockmakers. I think this was a very elegant piece. Christopher Ward supplied the base caliber that allowed them also to achieve what they did in the Bel Canto, because Bel Canto is a modified version of that movement that they made into a chiming watch, right? Instead of jumping for the clock, it strikes. Which also, which goes to say that I also appreciated the Bel Canto, even though it's not really my style of a watch at all. All that being said, I appreciate Christopher Ward. I don't necessarily appreciate the excess of products in that particular genre. I don't mind the price point. I think I know that category was invented for luxury, for excess. It was really in it, at its heart of hearts, a marketing ploy for Audemars Piguet in 1972 to release the most expensive stainless steel sports watch. So in part it was a gimmick, but it also proved over the half century of its existence a very influential, which is not exactly to say a timeless design. So I don't resent at all the availability of options now at that particular price range. But I like when people do something a little different, because all of them start looking the same to me at a certain point. Again, that's why I didn't get a Tissot PRX myself. As much as I appreciate its existence, I couldn't justify getting a watch as being such a fan of Gérard Janta's designs and specifically of the Royal Oak. I couldn't bring myself to get a PRX, and I have the same kind of attitude towards Christopher Ward 12, but at some point I feel like, why? You know, I have more of a problem with at the price point, when it starts creeping up even more. I like when brands try to do something different, right? That's why I also was impressed by Karl Zuchi and their Belvedere. So, yeah, that's my short slash long-winded response, JJ. But thanks for asking. And as a side note, no one knocked on my door to pay me anything. And I'm sure if anyone is listening, they know. They know what my response would be, so they don't even bother. I like supporting people and brands who impress me with their integrity, who impress me with their intelligence and innovative approaches, who impress me with their innovations. Um, yeah, who impress me with their courage sometimes, right? Because it's very hard to enter this kind of market, this kind of competitive market at this point in time. I'm not impressed by hype, so it is what it is. This is lot number 136, 5060G, the last hand wound Patek Philippe chronograph with a movement, with an outsourced movement, let's put it like this first, but also the last of the hand wound chronographs based on the Nouvelle Le Mania CH27 base. After this, 5170 was introduced with Patek's own in house movement, CH29, as the base. 5070 was, in so many ways, a big surprise to the community and to Patek collectors at large, because 4963 was basically discontinued in late 60s, and until 1998, which is the introduction of 5070, Patek actually did not have in its lineup a serially produced chronograph. And when it came back in a big way. And I'm using the word big here very specifically because this was a 42 millimeter case, which at the time, and especially for Patek, was just enormous. And since it was announced just a year before, Alan Gonzone released their datograph, which was, of course, a sea change in the game, both in the game of high horology and specifically in the game of in-house chronograph movements, in-house elite hand-wound chronograph movements. 5070 was for a long time not really well appreciated, and it had to live under the shadow of the datograph. It took a while for it to be recognized as the gentle giant that it is. It is actually, I think, in terms of the case design, in terms of the aesthetics of the two register layouts and the Arabic numerals, the dial in general, it's actually pretty classical. It's just a little bloated, but hey, that's my personal taste. It need not bind you. It certainly is a great option for people who like Patek's particular house style of classical elegance. but want a bigger watch, this is still one of the best options for that. And having a hand-wound chronograph from Patek is certainly a great way to go. Ask JJ. He changed up his collection a little bit, so I don't quite remember, but at least at some point he had the 5172G with the blue dial, which is one of the most beautiful watches that Patek produced in the last few years. And I like that personally even more than the 5070 series. But this in white metal 42 millimeter case is not a bad option at all, especially if you're a big boy. um, Presumably only 1,000 pieces made in white gold, so uh, rarefied enough too, if you care about things like that. Comes basically as a full package with its certificate of origin dated from 2005. This piece has an estimated value of 40 to 60,000 in Swiss francs. At lot 135, we have the 3970 EG. 3970, we talked about 3974 a little before, which was basically this model combined with a minute repeater. Here you have the perpetual calendar chronograph version. Um, Again, 3970 in a way lives under the shadow of the 5970, which has a bigger case, which is more preferred and more aspired to by a lot of collectors. I think 39 has something very special and beautiful about it. I come from the school of horology that appreciates the combination of complication with miniaturization. So if you give me a more complicated watch in a smaller case, I'm a happy camper. Um, that's why I don't particularly love the 5070, where you have a hand wound chronograph in a 42 millimeter case. Here in the 3970, you have the same movement base, Lemania CH27, which is magically transformed into a perpetual calendar chronograph within the confines of a 36 millimeter case. And that to me is infinitely more impressive. This is also a full set that comes with the pin pusher for adjustments and the additional solid case back in matching white gold. Pardon me. And there you go. This is Patek's version of the CH27 that, of course, they finish, assemble, and regulate to the standards that behoove a watch that carries the hallmark of Geneva. This is a 3970 EG. E for étanche, for the waterproofness, and G for gris, white gold. Of course, you have the perpetual calendar, right? Leap year indicator, moon phase indicator, pointer date at 6. Through the two apertures, you have the day of the week and the month. You also have a 24-hour hand that's lodged right into the continuous running seconds hand and 9 o'clock. Lot 135 is expected to fetch an amount in the region of 80,000 to 140,000 in Swiss francs. Right next to it, you have a piece that makes me say, if it was good enough for Iron Mike, it's good enough for you. It's the same piece, Cheers, that is currently on sale in Christie's Dubai edit. Um, Let me see if we can pull that piece. Mike Tyson apparently got one of these to console himself after back-to-back losses to one Evander Holyfield. But as it happens, he actually, when he sent it back to service, wanted a dial and handset that resembled the 5004P, the perpetual calendar split second chronograph, rather than the original black dial, which in his case was actually diamond set with baton hands. So he went with a set of feuille hands and Arabic numerals applied on the dial, which make it look more like the 5004P than the 3970 EP. And the reason we know this is because the certificate of origin is signed Mr. Michael Gerard Tyson. I mean, just an educated guess, really. That was, by the way, lot 44 in the online auction that is going on right now at Christie's, based in Dubai, closing in a little more than 7 hours. There's already a bid at 240,000 US dollars. Let's see where it actually lands. But now we were looking at lot 134 in Rare Watches Geneva, which is an auction that's taking place on May 13th. This is a 3970 EP with the black dial, baton markers, and a set of hands that match that. The case has seen some polish, as you can see. Here's the movement that we have already familiarized ourselves with. This piece comes with an archival extract and nothing more. Well, leather folder and product literature. If you're interested, this is lot 134 for a Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph, 3970 EP in platinum. The piece has an estimated value of 100,000 to 200,000 in Swiss francs. Speaking of 2499, you remember how we likened the lugs of 5016 to the 2499. You see those muscular and stepped lugs. The piece has a beautiful silvered opaline dial, applied Arabic numerals, feuille hands, and a tachometer scale on the periphery of the dial. A solid case back. This particular example has pretty healthy hallmarks, Geneva seal movements. obviously. And of course, 2499 is actually built on a Valjoux 23 base. And I'm sure you can somehow recognize that from the gear train. And the hallmark of Geneva is there, even though the movement is discreetly beating away under a solid caseback. You see those claws, the elegant drooping of the stepped lugs, and the heat blued hands for centrally deployed chronograph seconds, the 30-minute totalizer, as well as the pointer dates. The case is 37.6 millimeters. As I mentioned, it's noticeably larger than the 1518 and in a way preferable. It's larger even than what followed it, right, in 3970. So this is a very popular model indeed. This particular example has a German calendar, as you can see. It's not FRI, but FRE, so Freitag instead of Friday. Coming from the family of the original owner, this is lot number 132 for 2499J, a perpetual calendar chronograph by Patek from early 1950s with an estimated value between 1 to 2 million Swiss francs. We have its counterpart as a perpetual calendar, pure and simple, from the same production year, 37 millimeter case, the same claw-like stepped lugs, engraved for one Peter S. Knoll, New York City, 1980. A pretty pristine piece. This is a 2497 Patek Philippe perpetual calendar in pink gold with sweeping center seconds, which is an heat blued hand. First series. It was manufactured in 1953, I suppose gifted, somehow engraved in 1980. That's another mystery for us to solve, because at the end of the day, the lot essay doesn't really say much about that. This is a piece that was previously sold in 2004 by Antiquorum Geneva and 2015 by Philips Geneva. And it has a case made by Émile Vichet, which, of course, made many of the important Patek Philippe cases, including gold 1518s, the first series of 2497, 2499, gold versions of the first serially produced chronograph by Patek Philippe, which is the reference 130. The piece comes with a matching 18-karat pink gold Patek Philippe buckle, the archival extract, which confirms the manufacture of the watch in 1953 and its sale in 1970. God damn. Lot 131. That set in the case for a little bit, huh? And now it is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere between 600,000 to 1,200,000 in Swiss francs. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. This is lot 130, Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar, 3450 with an integrated bracelet, all in 18-karat yellow gold with a silver opaline dial. This is from around 1985. The case is around 37.7 millimeters in diameter. This piece has a very interesting layout for the dial. It has the two apertures right above the signature and at around 12 o'clock, which is not very unique at all, of course. Day of the week, month, pointer date at 6. That's also fine, but you have a porthole-like opening between 3 and 4 o'clock, which is the leap year indicator, and that's relatively unusual. The moon phase indicator is lodged right into that pointer date subdial at 6. The integrated bracelet is also a rarity. And the piece comes in a presentation box, and that's about it. It also has an estimated value at lot number 130 between 200,000 to 400,000 in Swiss francs. Yeah, it's very cool, isn't it? It's like a brick style. Beautiful. Speaking of Émile Vichet and the cases he made for Patek Philippe, this is 130. Oh my God. Look at that watch. 33 millimeters, but with those beautifully elongated and stylized lugs of this case that are also very nicely drooping. It has a larger than life presence on the wrist. I adore that two-tone silver dial that alternates, right? You have the hour track in a silver, and then center of the dial in taupe, hour track in silver, another ring in taupe, and then the seconds track in silver, and then you have the tachometer in taupe as well. The chronograph hands, both the centrally deployed seconds hand and the register hand for the 30-minute totalizer is heat blued in this yellow gold case made by Émile Vichet. Looks very elegant in a kind of décontracté, relaxed, casual way. It's really a beautiful watch, a true gentleman's chronograph. 33 millimeters on paper in terms of its diameter, but really has a larger than life presence. Let me, in fact, show you just that, and you can take the advantage of this occasion to follow me on Instagram by clicking that link. But here is a similar example that I tried recently at Philips, and look how it looks on the wrist. It is just one of the most elegant pieces I've ever seen. So that is, where are we going? Okay, we're going back here. To lot 129, which was a Patek Philippe 130, the first serially produced chronograph by Patek Philippe from around 1937. It comes with an archival extract that confirms actually the dial as well as the date of the manufacture and the sale. The piece was completely restored by Patek in 2016, which I really appreciate Christie's for noting in such an honest and transparent way. It has an estimated value of 40,000 to 60,000 in Swiss francs. At 128, you have a similar piece in yellow gold with a silver dial again. This time we have feuille hands and Breguet numerals for the indices. Once again, a tachometer scale on the periphery of the dial, a yellow gold case made by Émile Vichet with that elongated form that is slightly drooping, very comfortable and elegant on the wrist. Pardon me, this is the Patek Philippe reference 130 chronograph in 18 karat yellow gold, manufactured in 1946. The extract from the archives testifies to that, and its subsequent sale in 1947. This piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the region of 40,000 to 80,000 in Swiss francs. At 126 and 127, we actually have two interesting lighters by Patek Philippe. These were made alongside the Ellipse d'Or, the Golden Ellipse models, which of course had that similar elliptical shape that was based on the principle of the golden ratio. In 18 karat gold with enameled inlays, in this case, a translucent blue with a guilloche decoration. Very, very elegant piece in beautifully preserved condition. The Golden Ellipse lighters were introduced in the 1970s to complement the ellipse range that should be spelled with an E, not I. The ellipse range of watches, I'm sorry to be an asshole, but it is just what it is. It is believed that Patek Philippe commissioned Colibri, the French manufacturer of high quality gas lighters. These lighters were made out of a solid chunk of 18 karat gold and were decorated to the highest standards. A company brochure from 1978 states that Patek Philippe would accept your order for an enameled pocket watch with a motif of your choice or a hand engraved or enameled golden ellipse lighter. It is believed that the enamel decorated lighters were the rarest of the lots in the mid 80s they retailed as much as $8,000. So 126 Patek Philippe lighter fashioned out of 18 karat yellow gold by Colibri with a translucent decorated enamel inlay. This is lot number 128, 127, I should say, with an estimated value of 12 to 18,000 in Swiss francs. And we have one in emerald green. Beautiful. Similar decoration, but this time rendered in translucent enamel green. Emerald green, I wanted to say. And this particular piece, presumably a little more rare, has an estimated value of 12,000 to 18,000 in Swiss francs. If you want me to pay particular attention to any of the lots, whether something that I skipped or something that I didn't get to yet, please feel free to send in a super chat with the lot number, and I would be more than happy to dive into that watch in significant historical and horological detail. This is the 5650G, introduced in 2017, I want to say. Yes, 2017. The Aquanaut Travel Time Advanced Research that has this cutout between 8 and 10 o'clock to expose the mechanism for the travel time complication, specifically for the pushers that allow you to move the skeletonized additional hour hand back and forth. The piece comes in a white gold Aquanaut case with a dégradé with a gradient blue dial and a matching deep blue tropic strap. The package includes the certificate of origin dated from 2018, setting pin pusher, product literature, leather folder, and presentation box, one of only 500. It also has the Spiromax balance spring made of Celenvar. The new mechanism for the travel time operates without the conventional pivots. I guess that's why it was supposed to be exhibited. Anyway, some people really love this watch. I I actually, yeah, I call it the Terminator, but not in a good way. I think it is a hideous looking watch, um, and one of the most useless things to open work or exhibit or skeletonize for. To this day, I haven't managed to understand this watch, but it's probably my own shortcoming. This is lot number 119. Patek Philippe Aquanaut Travel Time Advanced Research, reference 5650G-001, introduced in 2017. This particular model is from 2018 and has an estimated value of 250,000 to 450,000 in Swiss francs. At 118, we have a Tiffany co-branded. We have a 5167R that was once retailed by Tiffany & Co. From 2022, you get the blue box treatment in addition to the full package. Fresh to the markets, the classic 40 millimeter case, the gradient and sunburst brown dial in the 40 millimeter pink gold case, time and date Patek Philippe Aquanaut in the jumbo version, matching brown tropic strap. This piece at lot number 118 with the Tiffany & Co signature at 6 o'clock has an estimated value of 80,000 to 180,000 in Swiss francs. At 5066, we have an Aquanaut from the pre-Jumbo era, the 5066. These are distinguished by a couple of things. One, the grenade or chocolate bar kind of decoration on the dial. Of course, the luminous material is different too, as you can notice from this well-patinated example. This particular piece comes on a matching stainless steel bracelet, which once again is not my favorite, to say the least, but you also get an additional rubber strap with a matching déployant clasp too, so not to worry. This is the 36 millimeter Patek Philippe Aquanaut 5066/1A-001 with the matching stainless steel bracelets. At lot 117, this piece is expected to realize a final hammer price between 20,000 to 40,000 in Swiss francs. At 116, you have the ladies version from around the same generation. However, this time the piece is quartz operated and only 30 millimeters in diameter. And lot 116, for that reason, has an estimated value of 8 to 12,000 in Swiss francs. Oops. At 115, and this is one of the many Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar Royal Oaks that we'll talk about today. Property of the original owner. This is 25686 PT from 1992, meaning that it is fully executed in platinum, case and integrated bracelet and all. Exhibition case back with a skeletonized and engraved rotor weight that is supplemented by a 21 rotor supplemented by a 21 karat gold rotor weight. The Gothic AP initials decorate that rotor. The case is numbered 009 on the back, and it is fitted with this sky blue, deeply tinted mother of pearl dial. The old school perpetual calendar, which doesn't have the leap year indicator, much less the weekly calendar around the periphery of the dial. So you have a much more distilled, purified, and simply beautiful, balanced look on the dial. This is the 25686 PT, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar with a stunning mother of pearl dial at lot number 115. The piece has an estimated value of 120 to 220 Swiss francs. There's something on the dial of my watch that I'm trying to clean. I'll have to get to it later. Back to back, we will have a couple more. At lot 114, we have another platinum. This is 25636 PT. So again, fully executed in platinum. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual Calendar, but with an open-worked dial, consigned by the original owner from 1989 originally. A very beautiful watch and exactly deserving of an open-worked treatment. With this particular dial, it is assumed to be one of the only 41 pieces at lot number 114. This piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the region of 120,000 to 220,000 in Swiss francs. Now at lot 113, you have the 25829 PT, and you get to see in so many ways how this piece has been transformed in a certain way. This piece apparently was part of the 50th year exhibition. Comes with an Audemars Piguet branded cigar holder as well, in addition to what is practically a full package, as well as the certificate testifying its presentation at the 50th anniversary. And as you see, being fitted with a newer caliber, it actually has on the subdial at 12 o'clock a leap year, an additional leap year indicator as well. This is lot 113, an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Quantième Perpétuel, reference 25829 PT, with an estimated value of 120 to 180,000 Swiss francs. I'm just going to pull this watch up and take a quick drink of water. Yet another perpetual calendar in the Royal Oak case by Audemars Piguet. This is again from 1998. The dial is in a blue that we can perhaps call Yves Klein blue. The patina makes it seem a little more purplish than that's IKB color, but certainly it's a beautiful shade of blue. The auctioneers listed it as sapphire. Once again, you have an exhibition case back with the skeletonized rotor and the supplemental 21 carats rotor weight. AP's perpetual calendars were largely built on a base similar to the Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber that was used for the jumbo, and it was fitted with a module supplied by Dubois Desprats. Hence, that's how it basically manages to fit everything practically in the same case as the Royal Oak Jumbo. 39 millimeter in diameter and right around 8 millimeter in thickness. The earlier examples of the perpetual calendar in the Royal Oak case were thinner than 8. The later examples, to compensate for waterproofing, were thickened into 8.25 millimeter. This particular example is actually a 25-820 ST from 1999. So this is actually a piece that is executed fully in stainless steel, case and integrated bracelets alike, and has a sapphire blue dial, as Christie's calls it, unlike the deep dark night blue dial that we often associate with the tapisserie pattern on the Royal Oak. This particular piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere between 80,000 to 160,000 in Swiss francs. I think so, JB. I think when it comes to the Royal Oak, 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10, I'll take the blue tapisserie dial over anything. Um, there we go. We have the A series original jumbo. This is the 5420, one of the first. A series is one of the first 2000, right? So this is not only one of the first 1000, but exactly the number 710, the 710th Royal Oak to be ever produced. Lot 111 is AP Royal Oak Jumbo, reference 5402 ST with a tropical dial from around 1974 with an estimated value of 40 to 60,000 Swiss francs. $110 is a young man compared to the 111. This is 26-240 ST. It is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph in 41 millimeter case with the blue tapisserie dial, 3-register configuration with the date indicator with the date window between 4 and 5 o'clock. This piece is actually from last year, so it is fitted with the 50th anniversary commemorative skeletonized rotor, which you can glimpse through the back. Lot 110 has an estimated value of 30 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. Number 103 is historically significant wristwatch by the Fleurier-based watchmaker Bovet. In 1991, Bovet was re-established by new owners André Michel and Michel Parmigiani. Michel Parmigiani, of course, also established with the help of Sandoz Foundation his own brand later. The present watch is number 1 of a limited edition of 10 that were made at the very beginning of the new era. In designing this new Fleurier, the inspiration was taken from Bovet's historic pocket watches of the 19th century to create a version for the wrist that continued the same DNA. The crown was at 12 o'clock, as if it were a conversion pocket watch, beneath a massive stirrup-shaped bow for attaching the strap at the 6 o'clock position. An almost hidden log provides the now instantly recognizable Bovet award-winning style that has distinguished the company's watches made ever since. In homage to Bovet's association with the Chinese market, the present watch features blued steel serpentine hands and transparent back, displaying the profusely engraved movement with pearl set rotor edge. The automatic movement is no less illustrious, being made by Frédéric Piguet and personally finished and decorated by Michel Parmigiani. The brand is owned since 2006 by Pascal Raffi, who also acquired the renowned manufacturer Dimier 1738, which allows the company to create now their watches in-house. So number one of an early Beauvais at the resurrection of their new campaign, a watch that established their house style in a beautiful 34 millimeter aesthetic, white enamel dial, heat blued serpentine stainless steel hands for the hour and minutes, and an exquisitely decorated, beautifully engraved self-winding movement. This piece should be interesting to collectors of Beauvais and the emergent independents alike, early independents, I should say. Lot number 108, number one of Beauvais Fleurier, 18 karat limited edition self-winding wristwatch with the white enamel dial. The piece has an estimated value of 10 to 20,000 in Swiss francs. Lot 100 is an IWC Flieger chronograph. This is reference 3741. It's actually an interesting coincidence, so to speak, because this is also a piece that runs on a mecha quartz movement made by Jaeger-LeCoultre in this case, with a date window between 4 and 5 o'clock, running seconds at 6 o'clock, 12-hour counter at 3, and a 30-minute totalizer at 9. The piece is fashioned in 18 karat yellow gold with a black dial, the iconic triangle at 12 o'clock, very classically sized and nicely proportioned case at 36.5. Lot number 100 has an estimated value of 3,000 to 5,000 Swiss francs. And it's an interesting coincidence indeed. Having started today's presentation from my Instagram with prestige, one-of-a-kind Jaragenta platinum chronograph that I presented, which was based on Frédéric Piguet mecha quartz chronograph movement in its turn. Lot 97 is the Harry Winston Opus 1. Let's see, chat. Can you guess which watch this is? Which independent made this watch for Harry Winston? I'll talk about the Opus project. Max Büsser, after he worked for Jaeger-LeCoultre and before he went off on his path independently, was actually the head of watches for Harry Winston and led this very interesting, daring, and innovative series called Opus that introduced collaborations between Harry Winston and important horological masterminds of the time. This was the very first project in that series, very well desired now, and by an independent maker who is now one of the three kings. Any guesses? Anyone? This is a chronomètre à résonance animé par François-Paul Jean, Invenit et Fetsit. This is his execution of the concept for Harry Winston as part of the Opus 1 project. The caliber is even more familiar visually. This is a pièce unique, one of a kind, executed in platinum. Basically, two watches in one. Breguet had employed the concept, the phenomenon of resonance in his pocket watches, but those were 60 plus, I believe, 63, 65 millimeter in diameter. For François Paul Jean to shrink that into something wearable on the wrist, here in 38 millimeters, oftentimes in his chronomètre à résonance pieces, 40 millimeters. It was quite a feat. This is from right around 2001 in platinum, a one-of-a-kind version of François Paul Jean's chronomètre à résonance in the form of a Harry Winston Opus 1, Lot 97, is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere around 280,000 to 400,000, sort of 480,000 in Swiss francs. Harry Winston ex François Paul Jean from 2001, 30 an execution of F.P. Jean's chronomètre à résonance concept in a 38 millimeter platinum Harry Winston case. At lot 96, we have an F.P. Jean Tourbillon Sovereign from the Ruthenium series, one of 99. This is a piece that has a remontoir d'égalité. Of course, the tourbillon cage itself serves as an oversized seconds dial since it completes its revolution in 60 seconds. The Ruthenium series basically negotiated the transition from brass movements into movements executed in 18 karat pink gold for F.P. Jean, the brand. They were made in 99 examples in each model. There was also the Octa Jour Nuit that was additionally introduced and only produced in the Ruthenium series. These pieces had ruthenium dials, but also brass movements plated in ruthenium rather than the usual rhodium And the cases, instead of the 38 millimeter, which was the characteristic case size of the time, were in 40 millimeters. This is number 6 of the platinum Tourbillon Souverain from around 2003. The piece has tourbillon, a power reserve indicator, remontoir d'égalité, and dead seconds. Lot 96 has an estimated value of 250,000 to 450,000 in Swiss francs. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. It helps a great deal. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'm here every day with more watch content. Check out all the other content that I have available. Share anything that you want in terms of the shorts and 10 to 15 minutes videos, especially. I'm trying to produce more of those as time goes by. In either case, I have a live stream on a daily basis, and hopefully even more than one as we go into the summer. I look forward to it. The channel is growing, and thanks to your help, we will get there sooner than later. This is lot number 95. What we have is an Octa Calendrier as part of the Ruthenium series, again one of 99, again number 6. This is FB Jaun's approach to the annual calendar with a self-winding movement. What you have is the day of the week and the month displayed through the 2 apertures, but you also have a retrograde date that is in the form of a crescent that faces the crown side of the case and that is indicated with an heat blued retrograde hands, which snaps back at the beginning of the month. And there you go. You have the movements that matches the tones of the ruthenium dial. 22 carats gold rotor. Another beautiful watch at lot number 95 from around year 2004 in a 40 millimeter platinum case. This piece has an estimated value of 80 to 160,000 Swiss francs. Lot 94 is an Octa Lune. This is from right around 2006. As you can see, it is in a 38 millimeter white gold case. It is executed in the movement, has the 18 karat pink gold bridge plates that are decorated with circular Côte de Genève. I don't know why I said white gold. Of course, it is platinum. And the self-winding movement is fitted with a 22 karat rotor weight that also has a barley corn guilloche decoration. I'm also a huge fan of this kind of grenet, taupe / khaki colored dial. You have the moon phase and, of course, the power reserve indicator up to 5 days, or I should say at least 5 days, and an oversized date. That's signature off-center dial with hobnail guilloche at the center and radial guilloche in this oversized second subdial that is situated right at under 6 o'clock. Lot 94 is a platinum 38 millimeter Octa Lune from around 2006. This piece has an estimated value of 40 to 80,000 in Swiss francs. Lot 93 is titanium elegant. This piece is based on F.P. Jean's take on the quartz movement, caliber 1210, 39 millimeter tonneau-shaped case that kind of harkens back to the Cartier Tortue, a glow-in-the-dark white dial, 48 millimeter overall length on the case. This piece is quite unique because when you just leave it on the desk to preserve battery life, to extend the battery life, it stops only to catch up when you pick it up again. So very innovative execution of the quartz movements that not only introduces a little bit of a play into the picture, but also has a utilitarian aspect in that it actually improves the battery life. This is lot number 93, executed in titanium, 39 by 48 millimeter case. This is the F.P. Jean Elegant with an estimated value of 12,000 to 18,000 Swiss francs. This is the, because the full length is 48 millimeters, this is the enlarged model. If that wasn't clear, I wanted to repeat that. At lot 92, we have once again a combination of perpetual calendar and a chiming watch by Patek Philippe. But on top of all that, we also have a monopusher chronograph. So what we have is once again a Grand Complication, and the model in question is 5208P, platinum with an anthracite gray dial, a kind of inverted moon phase at 6 o'clock, a 12-hour counter and day and night indicator at around 9 o'clock. At around 3 o'clock, you have the continuous running seconds as well as the leap year indicator. You have the 3 apertures in the upper quarter of the dial. Consecutively, that is the day of the week, date, and the month. At 2 o'clock, you have the single pusher for start, stop, and reset functions of the chronograph. And on the left flank of the case, you have the stylized slider to operate the chiming functions of the watch. The piece is built on a very beautifully decorated micro rotor caliber. The anglage itself is quite striking. So are the beautifully mirror polished hammers. The oversized micro rotor with the barley corn. Decoration is also a beautiful sight. This is a 42 millimeter case, a relatively contemporary watch, unworn from 2015, less than 100 pieces made for this combination of perpetual calendar, monopusher chronograph with a moon phase indicator and minute repeating function. Of course, it is distinguished by its oversized case. A beautiful example, a modern example of Patek's Grand Complication at lot 92. This is the Patek Philippe 5208P-001 perpetual calendar monopusher chronograph with a minute repeater and an estimated value of 700,000 to 1,400,000 in Swiss francs. I might go for another hour. I think I might, especially if something generous comes through. I might just end, but please hit the like button if you have not already. At lot 91, we have a very unique piece in a cushion-shaped case. What we have is actually a stainless steel hand-wound monopusher split seconds chronograph by Patek Philippe. It also comes on a matching 5-row beads of rice bracelet with straight end links. This is a very, very rare piece indeed. The reference number is 5950/1A-001. Let's take a closer look at lot 91. As you can see, the piece actually has an exhibition case back, which is framed by a similar pattern for the decoration as the dial itself. But an additional snap-on solid case back is included in stainless steel. And of course, that is part of the full set of accessories for this beautifully styled, unique stainless steel hand-wound split-second monopusher chronograph, launched in 2010. It is powered by CHR 27-575PS. which is a caliber that was introduced in 2005 with the officer style split second chronograph reference 5959. And this is the first exclusive chronograph movement entirely devised in-house, the thinnest manually wound column wheel split second single button chronograph ever designed by any manufacturer at the time of its introduction. The movement has been hand finished and decorated to the highest standards. It is hallmarked with the PP seal, a level of quality going beyond the Geneva seal standards. Okay. It can be considered a compendium of the best and most innovative horological technology available at the moment of its inception and is housed in an Art Deco style case inspired by the very first split second chronograph wristwatches of the 1920s. The cushion shaped case, the typical dial layout with the outer railway fifths of a second division, the two horizontal subsidiary dials, the Breguet numerals, the engraved motif at the corners of the dial, reprised on the movement as well, showcasing Patek's incredible attention to detail. Every little nuance of the timepiece is devised with an open intention of sending the beholder on time travel back to the 20s and 30s. Patek Philippe's 5950A split seconds chronograph, pardon me, is a further manifestation of the manufacturer's independence by presenting a stopwatch that, in a fascinating way, violates the conventions of haute horlogerie and creates its own market segments. It features a stunningly thin rattrapante movement produced one at a time by the most gifted watchmakers, and it is encased in stainless steel. Both the caliber and the case are finished to such a degree of perfection that they are symbiotic, as befits a creation signed by Patek Philippe. Reference 5950A, A for acier, French for steel, is Patek Philippe's first split seconds chronograph wristwatch encased in stainless steel, a material that is highly regarded today as platinum and the various gold colors. Typically, horological marvels are cased in precious metals. The 5950A is the exception to the rule, with a cushion-shaped case in solid stainless steel, which is water resistance up to 30 meters. The sapphire crystal glass is cushion-shaped as well and slightly cambered, as is the display back. It allows for a view of the breathtaking mechanisms that constitutes the world's thinnest split seconds chronograph, with column wheel control framed by a satin finish surround with gold-filled engravings. The silvery matte shine of the dial matches the deep gloss of the polished steel case. The crisp railway track minute scale emphasizes the masculine, technical look of the split seconds chronograph. The four dial corners are decorated with fine black lacquered engravings, adding a touch of graceful elegance, beautifully harmonizing with the blackened 18 karat gold Breguet numerals. The two subsidiary dials are decorated with intricate circular guilloche patterns. Another noticeable feature of the watch is the case, which is thinner than many time-only watches. This was possibly thanks to the superb caliber with which the manufacturer set the new world record. To achieve this technical prowess, a special department was set up in 2003 explicitly to develop this first proprietary chronograph movement. Each one of the caliber's components are individually filed, chamfered, polished, adjusted, and finished. When all the parts are ready, they're assembled in a so-called repassage en plan procedure, after which all the functions are tested before the entire movement is disassembled again. Once all parts have been meticulously cleaned, they are reassembled, lubricated, and fine-tuned, thus using ancestral production methods. Patek's watchmakers create horological masterpieces that exceed the expectations of even the most discerning connoisseurs. This is, of course, for this level of movement for this price segment. The split second monopusher chronograph is a very high level movement by Patek Philippe, so don't expect this narrative playing into every single Patek watch at this point in time. That's just not true. It's also impossible and unrealistic, but it is important at least to preserve this sort of tradition in special watches, such as this cushion-shaped stainless steel monopusher split seconds chronograph, beautifully thin, discreet, and presented on its matching bracelet. It is a steel stunner. This is the Patek Philippe 5950/1A001 from around 2015 at lot number 91. It is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere in the range of 300,000 to 500,000 in Swiss francs. We have three beautiful watches at 88, 89, and 90. These are Patek's way of commemorating their 175th anniversary. These were pieces that were made in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. That's right. The reference number was 5975, and they were made in limited numbers. This one is the yellow gold version, only in 400 examples. $59.75J, Patek Philippe's 175th anniversary chronograph. These pieces, of course, come with the full set of accessories, including the attestation, commemorative medal, as well as the special presentation box, outer packaging, and other pieces, single sealed, so unworn. As you can see, this is a multimeter scale with the telemeter on the periphery of the dial. In a concentric circle, you are presented a pulsometer, and snailed into the center of the dial, you have the tachymeter. The yellow gold example, one of only 400, here in unworn single sealed condition. This is the 5975J. It has an estimated value of 30 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. The 5975R. This is also one of only 400, this time in 18 karat pink gold, 40 millimeter in diameter. multimeter scale, telemeter on the periphery, a pulsometer graduated for 15 pulsations in a concentric circle and snailed into the center of the dial. We have the tachometer. These are all self-winding chronographs fitted with Patek Philippe's in-house CH29-535. That was 30 to 50,000 in Swiss francs as well. The 5975 R-001, the 175th anniversary chronograph in a 40 millimeter pink gold case, self-winding multimeter scale. And we have once again an unworn single sealed version in white gold. This is the 5975G. The piece has an estimated value of 30 to 50,000 in Swiss francs. I had presented on this on my Instagram, so I'm trying to find that. If you could oblige me for a second. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, I'm confused. I'm pretty sure I shared something on this, but interesting. Hmm. Ah, okay. So all of these pieces were in 400 limited runs. 88 was yellow gold, 5975J, one of 400, single sealed, unworn, 175th anniversary, self-winding chronograph with a multimeter scale. 89 was the same in pink gold, one of only 400. Lot 90 is actually in white gold, 5975G, again, one of 400. There is actually 100-piece run of the platinum, which I covered on my Instagram. So I want to read to you from there. Patek Philippe introduced this multimeter chronograph in 2014 as part of an exquisite collection to celebrate its 175th anniversary. It was produced in a limited run of 1,300 pieces in 4 metals, 400 in yellow gold, 400 in white gold, 400 in pink gold, and 100 examples in platinum. You see the platinum with that striking black dial on my wrist there. It is presented with a black lacquered and polished dial that serves as a precise measuring instrument for distance, heart rate, and speed. The scales for the telemeter, distance, the pulsometer, heart rate, and the tachometer, speed, are consecutively nestled within each other in the manner of concentric circles. The platinum iteration was only produced in 100 examples. Unfortunately, Christie's Geneva didn't have it this time. This was from the preview of the Philips in collaboration with Batch et Rousseau auction in December in New York. This one is therefore not only the rarest version, but in my humble opinion, the most striking in the contrast between the dial and the case, and between the elements of its neo-vintage design, including those distinctive stepped lugs and its modern chronograph movements. Behind the matching platinum caseback that bears the distinctive markings of the anniversary commemoration beats, after all, the in-house self-winding column wheel chronograph caliber CH28-520 that is thus unfortunately shielded from quotidian contemplation. This was lot number 52 in the Philips Watches New York auction, sold on December 10, 2020 for 138,600 in US dollars, including the buyer's premium. So we will see how the examples in this auction will fare. They were respectively lots number 88, 89, and 90 for yellow, pink, and white gold versions, all single sealed and unworn for Patek's 175th anniversary commemorative chronograph, which has a self-winding column wheel chronograph movement produced in-house by Patek Philippe, and a multimeter scale that accounts, that measures distance, heartbeat, and speed. And they are all one of 400. So let's see how they will fare. Now, if you have any questions, I might stay a little longer, but I think I am basically at the end of my presentation today, because I've completed this auction too. I'll come back tomorrow with another auction preview for you. In either case, if you have any watch related questions right now, feel free to send them in. I have, once again, as I do every time we are at the end of the broadcast, I want to remind you that this is an independent platform. It is completely autonomous, which means that I'm not in the pocket of the industry. I'm not in the service of any gray market dealer, seller, any particular brand. I cover all the auctions. I don't pick and choose, and I treat all of them fairly. I present them with all their failings and shortcomings as well as their merits. All of this means that I work on my own. I produce the content on my own, whether it is in the form of the live streams or shorter pieces. If you want more content from me, if you want increasing quantity and quality, um, I need your support. Everything that you give me, everything that you contribute through PayPal, Cash App, here on the Super Chats, as well as on Patreon, goes right back to the channel. On Patreon, the tiers are very clearly explained, so I'm not going to go into that, but I will talk a little bit about the service I provide. It grew out of simply the three value propositions that I sent into your mailbox. That was the initial offering. I expanded that and grandfathered all my long-standing supporters into this new program where I actually give them some exclusive content in the form of an extended recording where I actually talk about each one of those pieces, sometimes three, sometimes more, in genuine detail. And since each time these are selections based on a common theme, based on a shared aspect, it ends up being quite informative. Let's say I put together three monopusher chronographs. So I end up talking about why I chose those three examples, what makes each and every one of them more distinctive, and why that price point is already attractive or can become more attractive in the next few months. Or let's say, we all know there are a lot of Rolex and Patek and even Audemars Piguet dials with Arabic writing and um, crests and royal insignia from the Arab world. Just today, I sent to my Patreon supporters three different options that actually come from different brands and still have their own lineage, their own character, charisma, and also a lot of functionality as well. One of them was a triple calendar with moon phase. The other was a beautiful integrated bracelet, white gold dress watch with a semi precious stone dial. Yet another was enamel dial with a depiction of the regional map. Anyway, so these are just some of the examples of the service I provide on Patreon, which at its basic is sending value propositions directly to your mailbox from my observations in the watch market. And I also uh, accompany that with a recording where I go into horological and historical detail. All right. With that being said, and since there are no further questions or requests, I will get ready to conclude. Thank you so much for your presence and support. Thank you for all your questions, suggestions, and interventions from the chat. I really appreciate you. Please hit the like button on your way out. I especially want to thank Basil's Bezels, Flat 4, and Jake Brooks for their generous super chats and super stickers. Thank you, everybody. Please hit the like button. Please go through the other content, watch, hit the like button, share, leave a comment. I really want to boost the channel and I do need your help. I need more exposure And while you're at it, please follow me on Instagram as well if you aren't already. That gives me an extra boost too, because at the end of the day, I pick viewers here and there. And as you know, at this level, where I'm breaking into 1500s, every new member matters. And my day one supporters know that I genuinely care about each and every single member of this community, that I genuinely take care of everyone who joins the community. So please help me expand it. It is for everyone's benefit. The more, the merrier, genuinely, when it comes to our shared passion for wristwatches. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, I bid you adieu. Thank you. Good night.